So one of the things that we have in that structure, remember the little piece that was coiled? Okay, looks like a little elastic coil with the thick and the thin filaments. That's the tighten filament. Basically, it helps with the ability for those muscles to have this property, be extensible, and to be elastic, to move back into the shape that they're supposed to be. So, if our structure is one where if I've got sarcomere to sarcomere to sarcomere, and my goal, move those thin filaments towards the M line. If that's my goal, hopefully I'm going to get muscle contraction. So the structure, now this is kind of showing if we were to take one of these fibers, cut it, and look down on it like this, okay? This is our connection that we see between the thick and the thin filaments. So if I look at this one right here, they're showing that I have one thick filament with all my little golf clubs, okay? And look at the possibility of being able to attach to thin filaments. So this one thick has the ability to attach to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of my thin filaments. This one has the ability to attach to 6. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. Okay? So they're kind of showing us the breakdown of the connection that we get between that thick and that thin filament. Does everybody kind of see that? The movement that is going to take place when we have, and the goal is to make sure the thin filament slides over the thick filament. So it's termed the sliding filament model because of the way that it works. The thin filament, which if we think about our structure here, and if this color right here is representing my thin, this one representing my thick, okay, is that those thins will simply slide over the thick. Basically, because of all of those heads, okay, all those heads on the myosin. If I've got both ends attached to thin filaments, well, it's going to be able to pull and pull and pull, sliding the thin filament over it. Okay? So it's termed the sliding filament model. And when we shorten those sarcomeres, muscle is going to contract. Now, there's usually going to be some type of force, all right, because that's what makes skeletal muscle move. Skeletal muscle, we've got to be putting some type of force. For the most part, voluntary, so we are doing something to create that movement. Now, when we have movement, one of the things that I keep mentioning, we're going to see that muscle movement occurs because of groups of muscle. So when one contracts, one needs to relax, and vice versa, okay? And you can look up almost every movement of the body. They have websites that will tell you all these different muscle groups that are functioning to make that movement. It's really kind of cool. Mind-boggling, but kind of cool. So, when we have this pattern, which we know, okay, what's creating the pattern that we see. When muscle contracts, note, relaxed, now contracted. The difference in the banding patterns. Okay, so the banding patterns are going to change. So we're getting the movement to this midline. And this is what we term shortening of the sarcomere. So how does it do this? Sounds pretty simple, right? Sure, just get the thin filament to slide over the thick, and we've got muscle contraction. Yeah, okay. Let's check out and see how easy that is. Do you guys remember this? Okay. We talked about that in relationship to what? Do you guys remember? Our plasma membrane. Now, we know that muscle keeps some electricity. How do I know that? How do I know that my muscles are electric? Can I test it? Can I, maybe stick on some little things that will pick up the electricity? What's it called? What's that test called? And a myogram. Myogram. What are some others we might know of to check electricity of cells? Well, let's think about the electricity. So that means, for the most part, we're going to get little things stuck all over us. Okay? An EKG, an electrocardiogram, meaning I'm checking the electricity of my heart. Okay? Now, I've got the little sticky leads that I can place around my body to check for the muscles, the myogram. Okay? Anything else that we could check the electricity for in cells? An EEG, an electroencephalogram, the one that's going to check the brain. All right? Now remember that we have to deal with the ions. Okay? So if we have our ions, and we know, come on, tell me. What are the ions? Sodium, potassium, and which one did we say we were going to run into? We got some calcium that we're going to run into. Now, just because we're looking at muscle doesn't mean we're not dealing with the plasma membrane, because we are. Okay? So, if I look at my muscle fiber, that's going to have sarcomere to sarcomere to sarcomere to sarcomere, okay? I've still got a plasma membrane. What's going to be present in this plasma membrane for movement of these ions? We're going to have some channel proteins, and we're going to have some sodium-potassium pumps. Any other kinds? We're going to have our voltage gated, and we're going to have our ligand gated. Okay? So now, let's use our understanding, go back in history a little bit for class, okay? And let's come back to this point right here. Now, because of the structure of the muscle cell, makes it a little more different, a little bit different, okay? Just a couple of things. We know muscle contraction is going to have to take place because of an action potential that is going to travel down a nerve. So that tells me that if I'm looking at my muscle fiber, okay, I'm going to find that I've got my terminal bud coming into this muscle fiber. So, and y'all know I'm not an artist. Okay, kind of looks like a, I don't know, Santa boot or something. Christmas stocking, I don't know. Okay, so I now have my nerve, terminal bud, meeting an area on this muscle fiber. So, I'm going to need an action potential from my nervous system to make this muscle contract. Do you guys remember resting membrane potentials? And because we're having to deal in millivolts, all right, my resting membrane potential is negative something, right? Okay, so negative something is going to be an area for my resting membrane potential. Okay, now, depending on, like, you know, text and so forth, we're looking at roughly negative 85. Now, do you happen to remember what takes place if we were to receive the action potential? What happens with these little lines over here? Do we get more negative or less negative? So my line's going to begin to do this number, right? Okay, so my resting membrane potential, because these are electrical cells, okay? Remember, the outside is more positive than the inside. Okay, so the inside is still going to be more negative. Okay, outside is more positive. Now, when we need the muscle to contract and the nerve sends the signal, the action potential, and we're going to mess up that concentration, what do we see happen with the ions? Do you remember? The positive that's on the outside of the cell does what? Moves in. So if that's the case, that's where this line is going to start to move to be less negative. So what is it in the muscle cell that's going to make that happen? What do we look at to see what's taking place with the positive and the negative? And that membrane has those channels in it. Do you guys remember the one that was a leak channel? So at rest, okay, the leak channel is more permeable to the potassium. Remember that? And so potassium, now remember, I'm saying at rest. Okay? So when I'm at my resting membrane potential, that plasma membrane is keeping its electricity, because potassiums are just simply going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we're keeping a little bit of difference in the charge, outside versus inside. Remember that from the leak channels? Okay, so got to see what's going to happen.